The following presentation does not represent Australian opinion or intellect.
Fake news, folks. Fake news.
Are you Muslim?
He should have been slapped as a child. He's a spoiled little freak rat who's probably being treated like a prince.
I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
How's your levels?
Good.
Can you lean into the actual mic?
Yes, I can.
Okay, well that's good. It's actually getting a level. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's fine.
Do I have to put my drag queen voice on?
Do you have a drag queen voice?
Sure, I've got a drag queen voice.
Come on, man. Could you be that? Just, oh, how are you? How are you, love? I'm
Yeah,
oh, hang on. I used to have a drag queen voice. I based it on a mate's sister. What was that? Agatha Sparkles. How are you, love?
No, my drag queen name is what's my drag queen name? It's Candida glabrata, which is actually a thrush infection I do actually have occasionally. It's always good to have a microbiologist on.
Wait, what? Hang on. Okay.
You can Google that. It's a real disease.
I'm not going to Google it. I trust you. You're a microbiologist.
Okay, good.
Okay, wait. So your your drag queen name is based on a thrush infection?
Correct. Candida glabrata. Candida glabrata.
Candy Labrata.
No, glabrata.
I love how you've spent literally 5 hours trying to pronounce my surname.
Yeah,
But it's literally 2 syllables, and I broke it down.
I can't do a surname.
I broke it down phonetically, but you expect me to say that you're getting like frustrated because I can't pronounce a fucking pot.
Hey, if it's a microbiology name, I can totally pronounce it. Okay.
Okay, so break it down again.
Candida glabrata. And what part is the thrush infection? Candida species is thrush, and glabrata is the specific species.
You know what's funny? I always thought this podcast... This is legit, yeah. I always thought that with this podcast...
Please tell me you're recording this.
No, of course I am. I always thought that with the podcast I would sort of enter a new stratosphere of sophistication, or at least... maturity. Maturity is probably the best word to describe it.
No.
But... with literally the first actual accredited guest with credentials and some sort of CV that's respectful, the opening statement is that your drag name stems from some form of thrush.
Correct. Which I have suffered from in the past, let me tell you. And let's talk about the fact that I had to get a compounding chemist to prepare the boric acid pessaries to get rid of it.
None of those words mean anything to me.
No, of course they don't. But the point is, that's how bad Candida glabrata infections are. We're not talking your average Candida albicans, which is that white fluffy shit that people get. I'm talking a nasty intracellular Candida species that causes this like crazy redness, and no amount of fucking caniston is going to help you with that. Okay.
I'm just going to point out the fact that we've spent, it's 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We met up at 10, so quick maths, what's that, 6 hours?
Yeah.
We've spent 6 hours together today so far, and this is the first time I'm hearing any of these words. Or anywhere where...
Well, we were doing other stuff before.
Anywhere where the form of academia comes in, and I actually have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. I'm really surprised. Okay. Hang on, wait. We need to give you
We're still talking about drag queen names. I'm just giving... You asked me why and to explain it, and I've given you the explanation, which makes sense to me perfectly.
Okay. Just a heads up, because I have to introduce you. You're not a familiar face to the audience. You are Dr. Melanie Thomson. I'm so glad I got the pronoun in there. Doctor. Everyone would know you if you Google you for that pronoun thing.
Ask the trolley dollies. They got a bit silly about that.
You're not going to get in trouble for that, would you?
Would I get in trouble for it?
For saying that again?
Nah.
We'll go back.
Gives a fuck?
When was that? That was...
September last year.
Well, that was the year before.
No.
Okay, so basically...
But that's because I get stalked by, like, the Murdoch press on my Twitter account, and when there's, like, a slow news day in Geelong, they just come and hit me up. Pretty much. And they've done it to me so many times. I've ended up on the front page of the Addy. which is the Geelong Football Club newspaper, or the Geelong Advertiser. It's just basically Herald Sun with Geelong footballers on it, on the cover. But I ended up in the off season, obviously, because when it's footy season, there's only footballers on the front of the Geelong Advertiser.
Obviously.
But I did a few years ago, because I tweeted about Jetstar asking me how pregnant I was.
I remember. That's actually how you came to my attention.
That's right.
One of the reasons why you came to my attention.
And I have a long history of frustrated relationships with ground crew and air crew on aeroplanes, and so so I get a bit surly.
Okay. Just for basic context, let's just take you through the quick CV. Not because that's all you are, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If anyone that's tuning in and listening for the first time, who the hell are you? Dr. Mel Thomson, educated in. You were in England for how long?
12 years.
12 years.
Hanging out with the Poms.
Your official accreditation as far as academia?
Oh, what have I got? The letters up to my name. So
Other than that thrush that you were talking about.
No, that's not necessarily accreditation. That's more of an affliction. So my accreditation is Bachelor of Science with Honours from the University of Melbourne, and then a Masters of Research followed by a Doctor of Philosophy from the University of York.
So how many?
Lots of letters after my name. It cost me a lot to get a business card done. What can I say?
It's just a bumper sticker.
It's a bumper sticker.
You literally just slap it on doors.
Yep.
Yeah, give me a call. Psh, on the briefcase.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're a microbiologist from, you grew up in, where'd you grow up? You grew up in my area, didn't you?
I grew up here in the east, up in the Dandenong Ranges.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about it ages ago, because I'm naming all the suburbs that I came from, because I was saying you would never understand. You're like,
anyway,
hey, mate, you pulled me up on
you.
it.
I just said, I fucking lived in Willers Hill, you cunt. And Vermont South. And, where else did I live?
You know those are still pretty starchy suburbs, though.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know. But, Jesus, no, I grew up on a 20-acre farm, sort of hobby farm, up in the Dandenongs in a place called Macclesfield. Went to Macclesfield Primary. My brother still lives up there on a 10 acres with his kids, but he went back after we sort of lost the farm when I was 15, due to the recession we had to have, thanks Paul Keating. And that's the sort of last recession. We're coming into another one, clearly, right about now, but at that point, we had 17% interest rates, and so there was no way that my parents could keep the house, which they had overcapitalized on, and so they basically had to sell, and we ended up having to move into the horrors of southeastern Melbourne suburbia. The horror.
The horror. Okay, so at what age did you head overseas?
I headed overseas for a year when I was 15, and so I went and lived in Swansea in Wales, in the UK, and had a very good year there doing my GCSEs.
The hell's that?
It's like a year 10 certificate type thing. We used to have them here called the general certificate back in the olden days.
I did a VCE, which ended at year 12.
Yeah, no, and I came back to do VCE, and had to stay down actually a year.
So wait, you went over there on what accord?
It was on a student exchange.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that.
It was the American Swedish Student Exchange, ASSI, or arse with an E on the end. ASSI.
All right, so hang on. So you went over there on exchange, came back here, finished high school, and then went back there for uni?
I went back for a gap year, where I was basically an assistant house mistress.
The hell's that?
Which is basically someone who looks after little kids in a boarding house. So they're all living away from home, and so they need young teenagers to basically be older sister, babysitter type people. Yeah, well, now you do.
Yeah. Because that's almost like a maternal sort of quality, but you're pretty staunch.
Well, you've met my kids, and they don't even see me as maternal, so I did it to travel.
You know what? That's actually rubbish.
No, bullshit.
No, because over the last 2 years, a lot of your stories have all come down, like as in whenever we sort of chat, when I ask you, what are you doing? It's always something either educational or even just recreational for your kids, 9 times out of 10.
That's because I've been unemployed for the last 18 months.
yeah, fair enough.
I haven't had much of a choice. The 20 years before that, I was like an after-hours home avoider, where I just had a very busy job, and meant I couldn't really spend time with them.
So I'm basically paraphrasing your CV based on the fact that listeners don't know who you are.
Yep.
Even I actually don't know any of this.
No, that's okay.
Well, I know
You know,
a
some
bulk
of
of
these.
it. You're actually in Wikipedia, which is impressive.
Exactly. Can someone bloody go and fix that? Because it's not right, and it doesn't do half the good stuff. But it does have the trolley dolly incident on there.
I know,
Yay.
but you got all this shit, and then it just says
but
Jetstar.
you know what? That's because Wikipedia is run by incel tech bros. Pretty much.
Well, yeah, you introduced me to that phrase, tech bros. I'd never
Tech
heard
bro.
that until I spoke
Yeah.
to you. Okay, so hang on. You went overseas, you became educated, and then how did you manage your way back here?
How did I manage my way back here? So on the gap year that I spent between the ages of 19 and 20, I got kicked out of the girls' boarding school. I was the house mistress of.
Is that the official
6
title,
weeks.
house mistress?
That was it, assistant house mistress.
When I think of house mistresses, I think of living like lovers to...
Yeah, well,
drug dealers
but,
and rich-
but in the UK, the word mistress means also someone that works in a school.
Okay.
And they actually, the generic term for school teachers is miss. You get called miss regardless of what your actual name is.
Okay.
And or sir. So it's the sir miss thing. And, you know, you have to look up Centrinians and that sort of, Frankie Howard era of, 1970s, 60s, 70s comedy, to fully understand the sort of sexual, links between sort of girls with hockey sticks in short skirts, being flirtatious and, the sort of mistress thing. It's a very British thing.
So you got kicked out of this boarding school.
Well, I never got kicked. When I say kicked out, I mean they threw all of the staff that were living there as residents out for 6 weeks over the school holidays because they shut the school. Like, I couldn't live there. They turned the lights off.
Okay.
And so it was no longer habitable for that time, and so I had to go travelling. And I went on a top deck tour around Europe for a few weeks, as you do. Mm-hmm. And in those days, it was back when they actually had the old-fashioned, proper vintage top deck buses before, like, the emission regulations from the EU stopped them from doing it. And it was before the EU had actually set up a common currency. So I had all these bloody different currencies in little plastic bags.
I actually got to see the drachma when I went to Greece in 98. Yeah. I forget about that. The fact that really bothered me. It didn't bother me creating the universal currency because even though it's EU, you still have each nation's identity printed on the note.
Yeah.
I feel it was a bit of a chop out.
But did you know?
Oh no, here we go.
Did you know that the polymer that makes all of those plastic banknotes here in Australia and in the EU is actually sourced from the Viva refinery in Geelong?
All?
Yep. It's the whole world's plastic for plastic banknotes comes from the Viva refinery in Geelong. I found that out the other day when I was at the Viva refinery.
I know Australia was one of the leading. We were the first.
When the CSIRO invented the polymer.
Yeah. I know we were on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The world loved our currency when we switched to plastic. I know that.
Yep. And so everybody else adopted it, but because the technology is still licensed to Australia and the actual sort of proprietary...
Aussie's licensed the actual method?
Yeah. But this is the thing, is that you then have to sell the polymer. The polymer is like a secret formula. It's like Coke or, you know, the 7 secret... What is it?
So Aussies own that formula?
Yep.
Wow.
The CSIRO owns that. And basically the CSIRO also got, after their big wrangling, they got the credit for Wi-Fi back off Cisco Systems or whatever it was. So, you know, Aussies invented Wi-Fi too.
Yeah, I remember reading something. We invented the Esky or something. We invented...
Bionic ear. I
remember that
the
one.
guy that invented the bionic ear.
You know him?
Graham Clark. I've met him.
That's one thing I always notice in our conversations.
I just name drop famous people.
Yeah. We start talking about something random. It's like, oh, yeah, I know him. Like, how?
Yeah. I'm just lucky, I guess.
I love it. You're holding a can of Prosecco.
I know, I'm trying not to knock the microphone with my can of Prosecco. I need a straw.
Take a breather. I've only just started fitting this joint out. All right, relax.
Where are the straws, goddammit?
Hey, we should be in a strawless nation.
No, bullshit.
Why?
I'm calling bullshit on that. I made Movida the other day go and stock some. My favourite Movida Aki in town, behind the NAB building, where all the wanker bankers hang out, and me. I said to them, the paper straws are not good enough because disabled people that are my friends and I might bring here need plastic straws with bendy straws. They need them. I said, you just need to buy one packet and just have them on hand for when someone asks you for them. But you need to be able to provide a range of straw options because the replacement straws or the no straw option is not an option for disabled people.
Okay, in what way would you? What way is that argument? Treat me as completely ignorant.
No. And because it's basically most of the most of the plastics in the ocean is actually from discarded fishing nets.
Yeah.
And the sort of plastic straw, hipsters, you can do one thing. It's a bit white and it's a bit abled and it's a bit bullshit. Because actually you're not going to stop plastic contamination of the oceans by not using a plastic straw in your local cafe. That's not going to happen. That is not a direct link. Like, you need to actually get out there and clean up the Pacific garbage dump yourself with like a net and a boat to actually have an effect.
I just got the visual of like a bunch of hipsters in a canoe trawling for plastic.
They fucking do. They do. The hipsters are totally out there doing that all the time. And, you know, and even my own family, and my husband is not a hipster, he's like a baby boomer, but I have like guilted him into sort of, rubbish collection. And so he goes for a walk on our local beach down at Ocean Grove. And actually the local coffee van will give you a free coffee if you fill a bucket with rubbish.
So I've never heard of that.
You should totally come and do it.
Yeah, I'm going to drive all the way to Geelong.
Yeah, come down to Geelong to get a free coffee, because it won't cost you $20 in fuel.
20? Yeah. Where are you going, man? It's 2 hours each way.
Yeah, no, it's about 20. Depends on your fuel efficiency.
I drive a good old guzzler of a machine.
It might cost you 40 then.
Okay, so getting back on track. Okay, so you got kicked out. You did your tour of duty.
I did my tour, and then I walked into a pub in London called the Prince of Tech.
Okay.
Now this was 1993 or 4. Anyway, and at that point, the Prince of Tech was the precursor to the Australian themed pubs that they then opened up all around the UK, which were called walkabout inns. And that precursor pub, it had a sort of stuffed kangaroo over the bar, wearing a rugby jersey, an Australian rugby union jersey, smoking a cigarette, and they had up their Kazali on the jukebox. It was that kind of place.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm just picturing all the ones in Southeast Asia with the tacky sort of shit,
absolutely.
like football memorabilia.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was the precursor to a lot of those.
Okay.
And it was the only one in London at that point. And it was next door to the top deck offices where they dropped us off, and we were basically having a last drinks with the group, which was basically
became homeless.
Yeah, well, no, they weren't becoming homeless. They were going off on other tours. I was becoming homeless. I think I was due to go to visit one of my friends and couch surf in Sheffield or something.
Yeah.
And I walked into the bar, and there was a guy standing there wearing a North Melbourne Guernsey.
Oh.
And I'm a North Melbourne supporter and have been from birth.
Okay,
and don't hold it against me.
I was going to say, why is it that I don't know this?
You do know this, for fuck's sake.
No, I didn't know you were a North Melbourne supporter.
Seriously?
I'm telling you, I had no idea. I had no idar
You're obviously not paying attention. But anyway,
it's
fine. No one ever fucking listens to me. That's why I call myself Cassandra. But the point is that I walked into this bar and basically struck up a conversation with this guy. And then one of the guys from my tour, who I may or may not have had sex with on a pontoon in Paris, but that's another story. Steve, the short builder from Adelaide. Very short in all respects.
Jesus Christ. I thought you were an academic.
You asked me for the story. Are you saying academics don't have sex? Is that what you're saying? No. You've got a stereotype about academics that needs to be overturned.
Yeah, I'm going to start taking notes here.
Yeah, come on.
All right, anyway.
So basically, Steve introduced me to Simon and they basically played together in the Earls Court Roos, British Australian rules football team.
Okay.
And so they knew each other. And Simon basically, I chatted to him for about an hour. He said, I've got to go home because I've, got to go home.
Yeah.
And I was staying in like a B&B around the corner. And so I went back to that B&B and he said, but I'm coming back tomorrow at lunchtime to watch the live action Bledisloe Cup match between Australia and New Zealand.
Okay.
Now, I found that quite odd considering he was British and he probably was the only British person in that pub at all. So, I mean, I sort of lucked out in the fact that I'd started getting chatted up by a British guy in an Australian pub.
But he was wearing an Australian jersey.
He was, and he obviously was showing commitment to the Australian culture by, supporting North Melbourne. I mean, that is fair commitment.
Yeah.
Although we were quite successful in the late 90s, I must say.
Yeah, you did.
We did. We won a couple of premierships.
Yeah, my next door neighbour was a North Melbourne supporter, and I was a Carlton supporter. 95, we won. 96, you guys won.
Yeah, exactly. So it was good. But those were the glory days. before Wayne Carey turned out to be an arsehole.
I've talked about Wayne Carey a lot in the past.
Don't even get me started. I'm so angry about the Wayne Carey thing.
What are you angry about?
Angry that he has a platform.
Oh.
Angry that anyone gives him money to work on TV, and I have to see him talk about the white ribbon violence against women round of the AFL.
Well, the thing that
because he's a convicted person that has committed violence against women.
This is the thing. We put Wayne Carey in that. We used to put him in that sort of thing of the man glassed his missus. And somehow he's on national TV.
Talking about the White Ribbon Foundation. Exactly. How the fuck? Yeah?
They were talking about Bernard Tomic, the tennis player. They were talking about taking his money from like Wimbledon or whatever tournament it was because he didn't put in a full effort. You know, he just tanks his games.
Nick Kyrgios can't even throw a racket across the court without getting
They want to talk about
trouble.
these kids literally taking money off them because, you know, they put in a less than stellar performance, but Wayne Carey glassed his missus and he's on national TV every week.
I can't even tell you.
I can't.
It just makes me so incandescent with rage.
I'm not supporting anything that Wayne Carey's done in his personal life. All right, as a footballer, he was brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, he knows his
But I
footy.
don't care. The fucking genius excuse is not a fucking excuse, okay?
I know. I'm not excusing it. I just
Talk
think
to
it's...
Lawrence Krauss about that shit.
Oh, yeah, Lawrence Krauss. That's another thing.
Speaking of assholes.
Yeah, anyone that wants to Google Dr. Thomson here about her CV.
It's on the Wikipedia page.
Well, look, if you see, I was going to say, actually, it is. After you told me all of it happened.
I made someone put that on my Wikipedia page.
I jumped on Wikipedia and it was immediately updated. I just started laughing. That's the best.
And that was one of the physics whispernet, who may or may not work with Neil deGrasse Tyson in New York, that updated that.
They're related. They're affiliated, aren't they?
No, Neil deGrasse Tyson just got off his sexual harassment charges.
He had a sexual harassment charge?
Yeah, he just got off this week.
For what? As in sexual harassment, but in what capacity? What happened?
He used to touch up, there was some woman, a fellow astrophysicist, doctor of astrophysics, that had a tattoo of the planets up her arm, and he put his hand under her bra strap to see where Pluto was.
Okay.
At a conference dinner. And he also sexually harassed his junior research assistant that was helping him prepare.
Wow. I had no idea.
He also allegedly raped someone when he was a student.
Jesus.
Back in the day.
Hang on, these are all allegations.
Well, the two allegations that were investigated by his employer were the more modern ones, whereas the historical rape charge wasn't investigated because the woman refused to go through it again because she'd gone through and been not believed, as you frequently are with rape charges.
Okay.
Because it's he said, she said, and they give him the benefit of the doubt. And so she wasn't prepared to go back through a sort of kangaroo court investigation by her employer.
Honestly, I'm usually pretty up to date with all that sort of shit that happens,
no, well,
but I had no idea. Given the fact that
I'm obsessed by it. I got sent the New York Times stuff from about 3 different people.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because I'm like a global advocate for this kind of stuff, and so people send it to me.
Okay, hang on. Let's just stop. All right. At what point did you start your journey into academia?
My journey into journey into science or journey into academia, journey out of academia. It's a very long journey.
Okay, science. Let's just say science.
Okay, let's talk science. Okay, so
I'm just trying to get a broad, because I can't do your entire repertoire in the hour or 2 hours we have.
That's all right.
I'm just trying to speed it up just to give some context.
Okay, so I was very interested as a young girl. I lived on a farm.
Yeah.
And so I was able to spend a lot of time in nature, observing how nature worked. We used to breed horses. We had cattle that would get slaughtered in the field by Mr. Henry from up the road.
Yeah.
And literally he'd come and shoot them and then gut them and take them back and butcher them, and they'd come back in, and be put in the freezer. And then they skin would be tanned and they'd be put on the floor in the living room. So I was sort of brought up in that environment. But I got to observe, the sort of natural order. And then I realized that it was, just nature and biology fascinated me. And so I decided at the age of 11 when I had a teacher called Mr. Vandenberg, Paul Vandenberg, and if anybody out there can find him for me, I would really love that.
That's what I do. You know, you should just tell me.
Okay, so you can find him.
Hang on.
Paul
To be fair, the man may have passed on by now.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say we're talking about an event that happened 30-odd years ago.
That's true. He might have been 40 back. He might be about 80 by now.
Yeah.
I imagine that he's in some sort of like...
A hospice.
A hospice somewhere. Or people's home, or maybe dead. I don't know, but he was awesome. And he basically got us doing science experiments. And so I did my very first science experiment in grade 5 in his class.
Okay.
And at that point decided that's what I wanted to be when I grow up.
Yeah.
So I want to become a scientist. And, you know, fast forward X number of years and I became a scientist. To the point where I was doing my own research at Deakin University, until I sort of hit the glass ceiling in the very blokey, jokey department I was in at the time. And I also had some issues with being sexually harassed. And, you know, it was really uncomfortable because the person that was sexually harassing me, his wife worked there too. And, and she was part of my, wider network. And so it was difficult. There was going to be no winners if I put in a he said, she said, complaint. Whereas I didn't want her to suffer from that. And so I didn't put in a complaint.
How recent was this?
Well, it was between 2011 to 2000, and I left there in 2016.
Okay, so it's not ancient history.
No, it's recent history. Some of the people are still there working in the same positions.
If anyone Googles your name, you basically come up with microbiologist, something to do with Lawrence Krauss, something to do with Jetstar.
Something to do with Jetstar, something to do with trolley dollies, yeah.
And
I had no idea. Like, I mean, I'm a disability advocate. And I know disability advocates call themselves Crips.
Yeah.
But it's one of those sort of protected things. It's if you're part of that community, you're allowed to call yourself a cripple, but if you're not part of that community, you're not allowed to say that.
That's like WOGs.
Yeah. And so I didn't know that the term trolley dolly was protected in the same way.
So you're telling me the word trolley dolly is basically the same as Crips and WOGs?
Well, that's basically what the Murdoch press were trying to demonstrate. Okay. And that I was just an elitist bitch for demanding people call me by my actual name.
You see, I came in late to the party. I was aware that this had happened, but I didn't know it was you, and I didn't like.
No, it wasn't actually me. It wasn't actually me. It was a friend of mine, and I just came and I actually tried to do something that you can't do on Twitter anymore, which you used to be able to do. And as a Twitterati of long standing, you used to be able to come in when you saw someone was in the middle of getting piled on by hundreds of arseholes. You used to be able to come in and draw the fire away. And that's what I tried to do. I'm like, I'm going to try and just say something that is completely out of character. And I'm going to over-egg this because I'm trying to draw off the attack from this woman. And so that's what I was trying to do. I'm like trying to present a bigger target. Come after me. Don't worry about her. Come after me. But what I didn't realize was that by that stage, we'd had the post-2016 Cambridge Analytica, Facebook. You know, basically Twitter had become infested with troll bots. And anything that didn't support a white supremacist agenda, and women getting an education is against white supremacist agenda. They want women barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen not being educated because educated women don't have babies.
So despite all the progress we've made, you still think that is a glaring...
What do you mean think? I know.
No, you know. I'm not... Okay.
Handmaid's Tale. It's totally a thing.
Okay. Before we get any further, you know that I'm an advocate for everything you're saying.
I know.
You know that. That's why we're friends.
Yes,
blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm just presenting...
You can be the devil's advocate.
I'm not even being a devil's advocate. I'm asking you to elaborate on things.
That's fine.
That's why you're fighting me on this. Making me out like, he said that women shouldn't work. Like,
No. The white supremacists say that women shouldn't work.
Okay.
You didn't say it. White supremacists. It's basically part of the white supremacist message that is currently being pushed by all of those big tech companies. You know, and it's being used to win elections for Scott Morrison, and it's going to probably it's got the Brexit, no deal, Boris Johnson in place.
When I see his face, I get really angry, Boris Johnson.
He's just a buffoon.
He is.
And Scott Morrison's the best of a bad bunch out of the world leaders at the moment. And they're all like, you know, what's going on? I can't even believe we have a Pentecostal Happy Clapper as our Prime Minister.
Yeah.
What the hell happened? Australia, what the hell happened? I went away for 12 years. I come back and this is what I come back to?
Yeah.
I came back to
really
5 minutes of Julia, which was, you know, what it was.
That was groundbreaking.
It was groundbreaking.
For here.
Yeah.
There are many world leaders that are women across the world.
And, and it's interesting when you go and speak to people and like, oh yes, and I speak to my sort of feminist killjoy mates in other countries and it's like, oh wow, Julia Gillard, that misogyny speech was awesome. I'm like, actually, you need to understand the context. She was actually deflecting and defending a man who basically had made comments of misogynist nature about women's genitalia at the time.
Okay, hang on. You're going to have to elaborate on that one.
Oh, that's the Peter Slipper. Peter Slipper had sent, what's the guy's name? He now works for Pauline Hanson.
Okay. I'd have to Google it.
You'd have to Google it. But basically it's the Peter Slipper affair.
Yeah.
And, it was presented in Parliament, the stuff that Peter Slipper had said on text message to his then boyfriend.
Yeah.
James Aspie.
Okay.
And it was sort of comparing women's genitalia to sort of stinky off oysters or something. It was something gross anyway. It was really gross and misogynist. And I would remember thinking, you're defending that? But, and it was just like, it was a great speech. And you could see that she'd obviously been itching to do that. But the context around that. And it's interesting when you say that to someone, they're like, oh. I didn't realise. I'm like, yeah.
You're talking about Scott Morrison, right? This Pentecostal happy clapper.
Happy clapper.
Yeah, he is. It's hilarious. When I see those photos of him with his hand up in the air.
Oh, I just shudder every time I see it. Like,
it's
seriously.
funny. You take those photos, you send them, if you put another backdrop to it, and it just looks like a devout nut job.
Clearly.
You know what I mean? In any other context, you'd be like, who is this lunatic? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And I see him.
Speaking in tongues. And it frightens me that there's people, his Pentecostal mates, that are in positions in government. I think the person that's now in charge of the NDIS, for example, thinks that disabled people should just pray a bit harder and that actually God will fix that for them.
I can't.
And as someone who has a disability and has a son with a disability, I am just horrified by the fact that apparently I just need to pray harder, which as an atheist is a bit challenging.
It didn't start with Scott Morrison. This is what I was going to say before. Go back to two leaders behind him. We had Tony Abbott.
Yeah, well that's it. Another happy clapper. He was going to be a monk.
Yeah. It was even worse.
Exactly. He was going to give up women, but apparently he couldn't give up women.
So this right.
Because we are awesome. I mean, why would you? I certainly haven't.
I'll give you 100 reasons why. All right. But that's the point. Like the slow roll just started coming from a long time ago. I mean, when did Tony Abbott first come in? He was immediately after Rudd, who was after Gillard.
Yes. But he was opposition leader for a long time before that.
Yeah, it was always in and about. But I'm just saying, like, this whole movement has started from ages ago for some fucking reason.
Which is weird, because when I left Australia just as John Howard. I missed the Howard years.
96.
Yeah. So I missed the Howard years.
Port Arthur, Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear off.
And
it was a big year for me.
Yeah, big year. But, since then, I went away for 12 years and I lived through New Labour in the UK. So I lived through Tony Blair and then sort of the sort of central right, the central Labour movement to the middle of the UK Labour Party. Now they've moved quite far left now to go back to a sort of traditional socialist union leader.
Yeah.
In Jeremy Corbyn. But they were sort of in the middle. And I'm seeing a transition now with our Labour Party here. And I'm saying this as someone, I'm going to declare I know Richard Marles personally. So I know, and I've had discussions with him in his office where I get him to explain where the hell the political spectrum is in Australia because I'm confused because I missed 12 years.
Yeah.
And I've literally had sort of senior government officials try and explain that shit to me. And he's basically said the only difference between the centre right and the centre left is whether you believe in unions.
Yeah.
Or not. And at that point I was a member of a union, the National Tertiary Educators Union or something, NTEU.
You're big on your
I love an acronym.
Yeah, you love acronyms.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of the few people that I actually have to Google acronyms sometimes.
Really?
Because I feel embarrassed to actually ask you, what the hell is that? Sometimes I'll say it to you, what the hell is that?
You should always, and I teach my students this when I was a teacher, that you always have to define your acronyms at least once.
No, because you've used a lot in our conversations, and sometimes I think, I should know what that is, and I'll Google it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Sometimes I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. I'll be honest. Okay, so hang on, you were overseas for 12 years doing what exactly?
Basically working as a scientist and getting my master's and my PhD, and then working a bit more as a scientist. And so I worked at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then I hated London. So they say if you tire of London, you tire of life. I'm like, no, if you've ever tried to live there on like a scientist wage, you get really tired of it really quick, especially if you don't live near the tube.
Really?
So I wanted to move back to somewhere where I could have a garden because we had a sort of top floor flat.
Yeah.
And I only had a couple of window boxes and
Typically when I imagine
no
London,
garden.
that's what I picture.
Yeah, exactly. And so I couldn't have a dog. And after sort of growing up on a farm, I needed some sort of dirt under my toes kind of thing. And in London, you can only get that by going to the local park.
Okay.
And you don't get to own that bit of the park and you can't just keep your dog indoors.
Okay,
really.
so skipping ahead, you leave the labs, you come back to Melbourne.
Yep. So I came back to Geelong, in fact, where I had been offered a 3-year contract at an entry-level position at Deakin and set up my lab there, working on, it was the GIMP lab. So let me define that acronym for you. I got it past them. They totally didn't pick that up. The GIMP lab. Yeah. Gastrointestinal Microbial Pathogenesis Lab.
I can't believe you can't pronounce my fucking surname, but you just got that out in one go.
I'm
Two
good.
syllables.
I'm good with medical terms.
2 syllables.
Ask me about hematopoiesis.
2 fucking syllables.
I can't do actual names. I'm too white for names.
I'm going to convince you that my surname is some sort of medical condition.
Right, okay. If you do that, I'll be able to pronounce it.
Okay, so you set up the GIMP lab
I
in
set up
Geelong.
the GIMP lab, yeah.
All right.
And was running that for about 5.5 years until I got to the point where, after I failed to get my own promotion, which I was devastated by because I had done so much work for that.
Yeah.
And the other problem is that one of my referees was the person that was sexually harassing me, and I thought I'd handled it, and I thought I'd got him to just, I kept politely declining his sort of
Advances?
how about it.
Yeah.
And 3 times he asked me, and 3 times I turned him down.
Okay.
But again, there was never any evidence of that. It was just my word against his. And I thought I'd dealt with it, and he stopped asking me. And so I thought, oh, okay, I've handled this well. I'm adulting. Excellent.
Yeah.
But then when he sort of damned me with faint praise for my service record for Deakin,
Yeah.
I was devastated. I was like, I can't believe it. I can't actually believe it. And at that point, there was another university sniffing around to talk to me. And so I'm like, that's it. I'm out of here. But unfortunately, that sort of academic romance fell through, and they didn't follow through with the offers they had made me that by the time we got round to it. And so I was left in a position where I was like not really wanting to be at Deakin anymore because I felt that I'd got stuck against the glass ceiling at my first attempt at getting promotion.
Okay,
And
quick question.
Yep.
At this point, how many years did you spend in research and let's just call it sciencing.
Right,
Let's just
okay.
call it sciencing.
So I
okay?
started sciencing
So this is,
in 1995.
I know you were in research, right?
Yeah.
What other roles have you had within the science, within STEM?
Just research
It's always been
up until
research.
2016. From the day I started my Bachelor of Science to the day I left Deakin,
Yeah.
I was an academic researcher.
That's what you were.
Yeah.
See, because a lot of people like that have either asked me about you or try and explain to people who
Yeah.
you are. I just say she's in STEM, right?
Yeah.
Because you've been just research, teacher, la. But a lot of people, I mean, the dream, you tell your kids, especially my generations, like my parents and that sort of stuff. They say you're going to be a doctor. Like, why?
Yeah, no, I had
What
the
does
same.
doc-
I
what
had the
does
same
doctor
pressure.
mean?
I had the same pressure. But
Dr.
then,
Zeus?
guess what?
Dr. Mario?
Guess what? Dr. Mario. I love Dr. Mario.
Dr. Dre? I want to be Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre is pretty cool. But, I had the same pressure where, my parents were both, sort of cashed up bogans, I think is the correct term. And they both had not finished school, and they both had gone into sort of working in sort of administrative roles or working in sort of, I think my dad was a parts interpreter before he worked his way up to sort of, dealer principal at some car dealerships. But it was a very precarious job. Like the motor industry is very precarious, very, cutthroat.
Yeah.
And so I would often come home from school and find him home on a Thursday, and I'm like, what's happened? You've lost your job again, haven't you?
Yeah.
And that happened so often. And I was like, I really don't want that. I don't want that for my kids. I don't want it for me. And so I've got to get, educated to the point where I am not going to be unemployed.
See, I grew up in a house where my old man didn't get an education. He was smart, he was gifted, but...
And that is the thing. I think my dad really would have, he was very curious and he was always fascinated by science. And so he sort of made me, he supported me back then, but then when it got to the crunch and it was like, hang on, actually, we need you to be our meal ticket when we're old.
Yeah.
We need you to be a doctor, a medical doctor, or a lawyer.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you, right? that's why when I say sciencing,
Yeah.
you see the pronoun.
Acronym.
No, not the acronym. When you see doctor next to someone's name, you automatically assume like they're a GP somewhere or.
Yeah, that's it. And that's, but actually in the technical sense, only people with PhDs are allowed to be called doctors. It's actually an affectation that anybody else gets called doctor, because actually doctors that are trained in Australia do not have doctors of medicine. They only have masters of medicine or bachelors of medicine.
How much more work is involved to get?
So in the US,
completely ignorant here. I got no idea.
In the US, it's like an MD.
Okay.
So it's a much you have to do a bit more study.
Yeah.
But here we now have a lot of the courses of postgraduate medicine. So you already have to have done one degree, and so you're doing a master's, which is quite long on top of that. And so instead of a normal master's, it would be 18 months. You have to do another 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years.
Yep.
So how many
on top
years
of the bachelor you've already done?
Okay, let me ask you: how many years of education and schooling have you actually done?
Oh, a shitload. The same amount as an actual doctor. I did 4 years to get my Bachelor of Science honours. I then did 1 year accelerated masters, and then I did 3 or 4 years to get my PhD.
3 or 4 years, and then 1 year, then 3 or 4 years. So
and then I had to do
about a decade.
And then I had to do a trainee position. About a decade of not being paid a pension and the super. Yeah, so it's a lot of time to spend not earning money.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Especially when you're now I'm facing down the barrel of being an older woman who's can't seem to get a job.
But this is my point
it's
exactly.
Just like frightening.
This has been a lot of the basis of a lot of our recent conversations, given our current circumstances. But the fact that we've both come from different parts of town, different families, different educations, different outlook, blah, 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 blah. But we've come back down to this fork in the road where we're both sitting here fielding unsuccessful application letters, emails, for jobs that we're completely overqualified to do.
Correct.
Now, how does that happen? I mean, you went out and did the education. You did at the highest level. We're not talking about some piddly fucking certificate of TAFE.
Yeah, but I'm looking at having to go back and do some piddly certificatives of TAFE to get a job.
But that's what I'm saying. How do we live in a society where that is actually happening?
Okay, so the credentialism, you're talking about credentialism.
Yeah.
Which is moving the goalposts on what you need to achieve to actually get even your foot in the door. And I know we've spoken about this for white collar work, and that the basically meal ticket to get you in the door of white collar work is some kind of graduate certificate or a bachelor of some description. So something from a bona fide university.
Yeah.
And I know we've spoken about the sort of vocational path where you can actually convert your experiences as a vocational operator. There is universities in Melbourne, the RMIT and Swinburne, both have vocational-based entry programs, and that you can actually go through those and actually go straight into something you would need a bachelor for just because you have more than 5 years' experience.
Yep.
And so there is a few ways in to sort of getting into the white-collar management positions from the sort of blue-collar shop floor, but science doesn't have a shop floor. We don't have a shop floor. It's white collar all the way. You have to start literally the entry level now pretty much is a PhD.
Yeah.
Just to get a sort of to get a precarious 3-year contract that might not be renewed. You now need to have a PhD. So, and that's the thing. We've had this. The credentialism started in the recession that we had to have, as I say. Thanks, Paul Keating. And so the youth unemployment then was something ridiculous, like 30%.
Yeah.
And I was like 16 when that happened, and I was at a posh private school going, oh well, I'm going to be okay because I'm going to uni. But that meant a whole generation of people didn't go straight out into the workforce. And so you ended up with everybody staying at uni just because there was no jobs. And so that then pushed out the sort of skill paper cut that you had to have. And I know that when I was in the UK for 12 years, my husband finished at year 12, got like sort of a C average in his A levels in the UK back in the day. But he went straight into the police force, because you could still get into the police force straight from school he came from a forces family. His dad was in the Air Force, and so he had that sort of white social, sort of military background that the police were looking for at that point. This was before they got all touchy-feely and wanted diversity. Way before then. This is Margaret Thatcher. This was the Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher, we're going to break the strikes. And we lived in Yorkshire, and one of the pubs we used to eat in was owned by a guy that was a union picket breaker in the coal miners' strike in Yorkshire in the 80s, and we couldn't tell him what Simon did for a living. Simon was still a practicing police officer, but he would not serve us a drink if he knew that was a thing. Wow. Because the prejudice against the police and the way they're being used by Margaret Thatcher to break the unions was so strong in Yorkshire.
So moving along.
Anyway, sorry. I digress.
Okay. So we are where we're at now.
Yeah.
All these, again, with the whole sciencing thing. What does it mean? I mean, you've come to where you're at now.
Well, I mean, the only sciencey I do now is the fact that I sort of hit the wall and had a breakdown in May last year because I just couldn't sort of sustain the pressure of the high-powered job that I was doing, and I was doing a lot of travelling, and I've got multiple sclerosis, and I didn't really understand the impact on my mental health having such a busy, fatiguing schedule had on me.
Yeah, I remember especially when we first started chatting, I'm like, where are you? Like, I'm in Sydney doing a conference.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm in Brisbane.
Then I'm in Brisbane, then I'm going to New Zealand, then I'll be back, and I'll be at home for 2 days.
Well, this is it. It was a pretty hectic schedule.
Yeah.
And I basically grew apart from my family, which was difficult.
Yeah.
For them, and, not so much for me because I still thought I was chasing the dream. But then the dream sort of crashed down into a sort of big heap of nightmare, and I didn't really get off my couch for months because my mental health had deteriorated to the point where I was just literally, I had a proper breakdown. I had severe complex depression, and I couldn't get off the couch. And, and it took me a couple of strategic things to start trying to get back in contact, and it took me a whole 18 months to get back to the point where I actually am confident now that I can apply for jobs and actually do jobs again without really too much accommodation.
You're looking at women in STEM, especially women in STEM.
Yep.
Okay. What are the job prospects after, say, research or say anything in STEM, and you've sort of gone to the top or close to it?
Yeah, well, this is it. And
what do you do?
I have lived the dream, and I've had my opportunity. I couldn't stick it out, as I say, because I got stuck into an untenable position at Deakin because of the circumstances I was in.
Yeah.
And again, I was in a position where I was doing lots of teaching and admin, and so I had neglected my research, and I was looking after a young family, and I had MS myself, and trying to look after myself meant that I couldn't actually put in the sort of crazy hours that is sort of expected as part of the culture. And in fact, the only women in my department that seemed to do well were people that were supported to get grants by other institutions in Melbourne, and childless women at my level.
Okay. That's exactly what I'm trying to identify now. What are the career prospects? And how far can you go?
Well, you can go as far as you like, but it's what the support networks you have and what sort of the situations you find yourself in.
Okay, quick question. This is actually probably a stupid question.
That's okay. No such thing as a stupid question. Apart from, is this going to be on the exam? That was always my swear jar. I used to have a swear jar at Deakin. I'm like, right, there is one stupid question. Is this going to be on the exam? And if you say that, you have to put $1 in the swear jar.
Okay. As a woman in research in microbiology, what would your average workload be? As in, on a given week? What time do you start
if
work?
you're running your own lab, by the time I had 4 or 5 PhD students that I would have to see and check that they were okay and were on track and whether they needed advice. I also was teaching at course director level, which was a job about 2 pay scales above where they were paying me. I also had to manage other staff who were senior to me, and I had to give them continuing professional development, especially if they got complaints from students about their teaching styles. I had to do a lot of that.
Why would you be doing that if they're senior to you?
Because I was the course director, so I was the administrative manager.
Okay.
But they were allocated to me because they had not performed they didn't get enough research money in to enable them to not do teaching. And this is the thing, is like, you think that university lecturers actually lecture, but they spend most of their time trying to get money so they don't have to do teaching and admin. But because I didn't have one of those grants that bought me that luxury of time away from the teaching and learning admin, I had to do a lot of it. And so it meant that I never got any time to do my research.
I mean, it just seems like a fucking a mess.
Well, you know,
You're literally
I was in a department where all the women got stuck with all the teaching and learning admin. Let me tell you, it's like, oh, you're a woman, you can do admin. You can multitask.
I don't, but just the thought, like, okay, take someone like me, yeah, that never had aspirations to go to uni and be a fucking scientist, or, you know, none of my friends turned around and said they were in research, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of them was solicitors, or they had, you know, they went to uni, got educations, and they became solicitors, or they became whatever. But actually, the word scientist, when you attach it to someone's name, it's got like a stigma, man. It's like, you're a fucking scientist.
No,
like,
geek.
You're a Tony
Nerd.
Stark. You know what I mean? So,
I don't know, Tony Stark.
just say, you're Iron Man. You are Iron Woman, like literally. Compared
That's the thing. I'm Wonder Woman, but even she was a bit soft, frankly.
No, Wonder Woman was bullshit. Like, the actual movie adaptation was arse. I gave a whole review on it in the podcast like, a couple of years ago. It was crap. All right? She was an Amazonian, and they made her out like this whiny...
Yeah, no, she was way too soft.
Bleeding heart. I just couldn't be bothered.
No.
She should have just been ripping people's balls off on site.
Damn right.
I love how your keyring's got a Lego Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I've got my Lego Wonder Woman. That's right.
Okay.
My other one's got Superwoman.
It's just... When you talk to lay people like me, and you talk about being a scientist or the role or whatever, people just envision labs, white coats, assistants, like being in this position at the top of the thing.
Look, and I had white coats in my lab, but there's lots of labs that don't require white coats, and basically 70 to 80% of people that get trained up to PhD level don't end up doing sciencey science in a lab somewhere with a white coat. That just doesn't happen.
What do they do? Lecture?
Well, I was lecturing and having to do the research as well.
All the conferences that you used to do, or you still do. You were overseas for a conference 2 months ago.
That wasn't a sciencey conference.
That was
the
different.
Faculty Sexual Harassment Conference. Because I do feminist killjoy conferences as well.
I know, the fact that exists just makes me laugh. It's just a band of women, just group of women, just.
There were some men there.
Doing what? Apologising for being...
presenting their work. There was a lot of HR and diversity and inclusion, culture and people type people there.
Okay. So let's just say in your researcher days and post or whatever, all these conferences that you used to do, what were they about?
So the conferences I used to do when I was a researcher were based on my actual bench research, so what I was doing in the lab. And so when I was a microbiologist, the last conference I went to as a microbiologist was actually in Portugal. It was a biofilms conference. I took one of my PhD students that was working on the Staph aureus superbug, golden staph.
Okay.
And the antibiotic resistant biofilms that they form on hips. And that was one of my past crowdfunding excitements, which was called Hips for Hipsters.
What was the other ones? I remember you announced
Mighty Maggots. Mighty Maggots was my first one. Then my second one was Hips for Hipsters, and the last one was No Poo to Poo.
That's the one that you first shared with me. I said, what the fuck?
What even is that? It's about diarrhea. I like to talk shit professionally. What can I say? As opposed to you who just does it for laughs.
It's just funny because it's like, what was your
I have been paid to talk shit.
What was your first professional media, project? Diarrhea.
That was my third. Maggots was first. Superbugs were second, and then shit was third.
It just astounds me, the fact that, you've got all these accolades, these accreditations, all this shit that you've had to work and build and blah, 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 but then people like you are sort of left looking for a fucking job the same way I am.
That's right, absolutely.
That makes no sense to me.
I'm on the scrap heap. And why are we on the scrap heap? We discussed this earlier. What is the shared, what do we share that other people find objectionable?
Well, this is the funny part, because a lot of people would say to me, okay, for anyone that, but most people actually do know that know me, but you appointed yourself as my industry career mentor.
That's right.
2 years ago.
Exactly. You didn't get a choice.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just going to mentor the shit out of you.
I just wanted to make podcasts.
I'm like, I've listened to your podcast. It's shit. You need a better one.
Okay. So, yeah. You've thrown me off now.
Sorry.
I was just saying, anytime, the two things that people throw up against me is either that I'm sexist or I'm racist or homophobe or blah, 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 just off face value. And I say, how can that be fucking possible?
Yeah.
All right, I've got literally an uber feminist as a career mentor. Some of my closest friends are gay.
Yeah.
Like, give me a fucking break. Like, this has got nothing to do with that. It goes above and beyond. You have to understand. And I remember one of the things that you said was empathy. Like, that's the biggest form.
Yeah,
of,
well, that's it. And it's seriously lacking in most people with penises, I've got to say. And having that empathy and being able to, and we share the value where we just won't let things slide. And the fact that we want justice.
Yeah.
And social justice for whatever reason. I mean, I've feminist killjoy justice, but at the end of the day, equity and diversity and inclusion is what I want. Because I don't just want white ladies to have good jobs. Because guess what? They mostly do anyway. But it's the people that I know and that I have dealt with in the disability inclusion space and in the sort of transgender space. They're the people really doing it.
Actually, I was going to say, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I feel like we actually get along, or why we've maintained this sort of friendship, is the fact that you have a sense of humour about yourself.
Oh, God, I'm always laughing at myself.
You're always laughing.
Constantly.
You laugh at yourself, and you never made me feel like I was any less of a person because of my opinion or my experiences.
And that's the thing, is that I recognised immediately that you should be a philosopher.
Yeah, I'm Greek.
You're Greek. You should be a goddamn philosopher. It's genetic.
Yeah. My philosophy. Check out the podcast, which you just said was shit. There's my philosophy.
I didn't say that I had to agree with your philosophies. I'm just saying you're a philosopher. Because I don't agree with most of the goddamn blokey philosophers that are out there.